following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The People's View is a show sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. The committee meets every second Thursday at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to contact us, we have a website, nashuagop.org. And at the end of the show, you'll see some contact phone numbers or email addresses that you may want to send us your comments and recommendations. Thank you for listening in.
Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello and welcome to our People's View, and Steve Hattamer, who is our new candidate for Executive Council here in Executive District 5, isn't it?
Executive District 5.
Steve, welcome aboard the People's View, and we'll find out a little bit about you. What made you decide, as a doctor, an anesthesiologist?
Correct.
That you had to get into politics?
Well, I've always been active ever since I was a kid in politics. I was a student body president in junior high, and I was senior class president in high school. And I've gone from there, being very active in the American Medical Association and my professional association, the American Society of Anesthesiologists. And I always eyed hard the rep position, but it seemed like to really do a good job as a rep or a senator, you'd have to spend just a lot of time in Concord, and I just couldn't do that and have a real job. And I've got kids to get through school, so I was asked about doing the Executive Council last fall by my friend Kelly, and I met with Chris Sununu and talked about it and researched it, and I thought, not only is it a job I could do, it's a job I'm really well suited for. And I said, okay, and I've always wanted to make a difference, and I'm going to give it my all and try.
Well, why are you well suited for that? Why do you think that an anesthesiologist can do a good job for the state?
Well, I am first and foremost a physician, and that permeates everything I do. And just as I listen to patients, I'll listen to voters too. And it's a lot about listening, not so much about you, the campaigner. I also a small businessman, run and opened 2 successful small businesses here in town. I sit on the board of the American Society of Anesthesiologists, where we handle quite a large budget there. I sat on the Governance and Finance Committee with the American Medical Association, and they have a few nickels they handle there. And I also sit on the board of a large insurance company, and we handle, our portfolio is about $100 million or so.
Oh, really?
So I have a lot of experience looking at contracts and making tough decisions when it comes to financial matters.
That'd be interesting. I think since the Health and Human Services group is what, 45% of the budget, a lot of money goes through medical questions.
That's correct. I mean, it's a huge portion of the budget, the largest portion of the budget. And, medicine and health and human services is something I know something about.
Definitely, yeah. So how are you organizing your team, if you have a team, and how are you going? The district is fairly large, isn't it?
It is fairly large. It's a little daunting looking at the, I've put a lot of miles on my car these days. I do have a great team. We have in fact, we just met before I came over here today. A core member of 6, and then we have several volunteers other than that. And they're just wonderful people and dedicated to helping me win. And we're trying to do our best to cover the district. I'm out almost every night at some event, meeting people and trying to let people meet me. And because I probably have as much name ID as, I don't know, not the...
Well, obviously, in the primary, you have a person who's been there before.
Sure.
So you do have a handicap there.
I do.
You have to get out there, and people have to know you a little bit before they decide to vote on you.
Well, I'm trying hard. I think people, once people meet me and get to know me, I think they'll appreciate that I'm a real person like them. I'm not a rank and file politician. I haven't, my first foray into public politics. So I started out as a high school teacher a long time ago. Yeah, I wanted to, because you know, a couple teachers had a huge impact on me. Just as I'm sure someone in the viewing audience, some teachers saved their lives, and a couple teachers saved my life along the way. And I wanted to have the same good impact that they had on me. So I started out as a high school teacher, and then got silly, went to medical school, and I wanted to have the same, you know, great impact on people as a physician. And this is just a logical extension of that, having a greater impact on more people. And I want to make a difference.
What do you think are going to be the big issues that an executive council is going to face?
Well, certainly, first and foremost, the making sure that our tax dollars are spent wisely. You know, we've had problems with the budget year after year, trying to balance it on, you know, pretend income we might have down the road, and which was probably never a good idea. But the council has a great responsibility to make sure that money is spent wisely, and that's probably the greatest issue. I'm a fiscal conservative. I know that we need to invest in ourselves too, but we need to invest wisely.
Well, one thing, I served 2 terms up there on Public Works, and one of the questions I have is, well, I guess it's 2 questions that maybe would involve executive council. One, the agencies let out a lot of contracts for different things, but I have yet to hear a good way of incorporating some kind of review on whether the vendor meets the objectives of the contract after the fact. And I don't know if you come across that at all and you're looking at the job. But
it's interesting. Chris Sununu, I think, discussed that when we met. And having some, you know, it's easy and hard for the council and the governor to say, well, let's move forward with this project. And we did talk about the fact that there's not a lot of retrospective analysis after the fact to make sure that things are being met. And I think that's something certainly we could probably bring up the legislature is a better place. But the executive council certainly could ask questions about what kind of follow-up they're going to get afterwards. I certainly think they have that right and maybe that responsibility when they approve a contract.
Especially the larger ones. I know I did put in some legislation for something like this to happen, but going through the agency rigmarole, they took the tact of, well, that's going to cost too much, you know, and all it was setting up a program where you would have, there is a computer program which lists all the contracts and the status of the contracts, et cetera. I have wanted to add 1 column in that thing about evaluation, whether they met all the objectives of the, for any contract, I think I set a limit of $50,000 or more.
That sounds like actually a wonderful idea. I can't imagine why that wouldn't fly, because it cries transparency, which is what everybody and the voter wants.
Well, everybody except the people up there who claim that they take 2 part-time people to monitor it, and it really wouldn't. It takes a person who's monitoring the contract for whatever agency to write up a 1-page review of the results of the contract, and you take that in effect. One of the things that started me on that is I found out a lot of the smaller agencies just have no idea of some of the vendors that have been on these contracts, whether their performance has been good in the past. And they wanted that. I mean, I had 2 people that wrote to me saying, this is exactly what we need for the Department of Safety or whatever it is.
That sounds like a great idea, because if someone hasn't met their goals, you may not want to renew their contract or look at another vendor.
Well, they had that contract that they put out for the roof of the building up there that they had a poor vendor, and for 6 months it stood halfway done. So, I mean, you do want to avoid something like that. And maybe if you do get elected, then you can ask that a little bit more.
I will.
Okay.
I'll ask on the first day.
All right. What else do you think that you might run across in some of those contracts?
Well, I know the study for the rail system has been proposed. I think that's going to be a major issue, at least for the southern, at least for the 5th District, if not even into the 4th.
Very much so, yeah.
I know a lot of people really want that. I know all of us have friends and family and neighbors that commute down to Boston every day, or vice versa. And you know, and many of us like to go down to see a Red Sox game. It might be more handy. But I think it's that study is going to be coming out. Something we need to look hard at and see if it's worth the investment.
Well, one of the things that they say now is that the bus contract is running very well. How do you think that'll play into the whole thing?
Well, I know the bus contract's doing well. I think they did about 500,000 rides last year, something like that. And they're doing very well. I've ridden the bus myself many times down to Boston. It's very handy. You know, depending on gas prices, you know, we're refinishing 293, a portion of that. I don't know about how 3's looking, but I had to drive up to Bedford the other day. I received an award up there, and I had to go during rush hour, which is I never go. And if I had the award, I never would have gone. But boy, it took me a good almost an hour to get to Bedford. Yeah. And I wonder if we might be able to relieve some of that congestion if there was a rail system. I wonder if that should be looked at too. So there's a lot of factors there, but you know the numbers have to make sense. But I think for our people down in the southern portion of the state here, having that connection to Boston is an important thing for us to take a hard look at.
I talked to the mayor; she's very interested in that too. So much so that she was trying to work even on getting the MBTA to get involved to bring it up just to the border.
Oh, really?
And, you know, I think when I was up there in the legislature, that was the one question, is why they were insisting on moving it all the way up to Concord when you could do it in stages.
Yeah, and I think if it's done, if we decide to do it, I know Chris Sanudo described it as a boondoggle going to Concord, and I can't help think that's probably true. But where the population base is down in Nashua and in Manchester, it's a much different animal. And you know, while the bus trip to the state line, if the MPD came up there, would be a short bus trip, I just can't see that's not a viable option. I don't think. I think you got to in for a penny, in for a pound. You got to either do it or not. But it's got to make financial sense, and it has to show a return on investment for the future.
Well, I think so too, and probably maybe up to the airport, which seems more logical. You know, and you don't have to have you know, an 100-mile-an-hour train either, because you're only going 20 miles between stops. Right. You can't get it up to speed.
Yeah, we don't need a bullet train, but I tell you, right to the airport would be a sensational thing, and it would be well utilized.
Well, what other big ones do you think might come up while you're up there?
Oh,
this medical care thing, I mean, that'd be somewhere.
Well, we talked about the budget. I'm a physician, and I have to deal with Obamacare every day, and that's a difficult thing for me. You know, I deal with these regulations every day, and I'm getting pretty good at it because I deal with it every day. But I can't imagine how the patients survive. There's so much red tape for them to go through, and I don't like that. I know we did this expansion of Medicaid somewhat as long as the funding will hold out. I'm not sure it was the right thing to do. I think those federal tax dollars are going to go away in a few years, and then what are we going to do? Are we going to make the program go away? I think it's kind of doubtful once we start it. And I do think it might be a really good time to have a doctor in the State House. And with my experience in organized medicine and the American Medical Association, I think I could lend a hand and be a voice worth listening to.
I would hope so. Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of things that are coming up in medicine, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, or whatever else is going to be put into the system with the Obamacare.
Yeah, I was looking at the numbers of the hospital the other day, and we're going to, looking at probably well over 50% of the population will either be Medicare, Medicaid, or the Obamacare segment.
Yeah.
And that's a huge portion of not only our budget, but the state budget as well.
Sure. Well, I know it's hard. My son's self-employed, and trying to get insurance was kind of difficult for him. Of course, he has a pretty hefty deductible now when he finally did get it.
Most people do, and I've noticed rising deductibles on most patients now. And in my company, my little business, we've had gone from a relatively low deductible just probably 10 years ago to a very high deductible now. So much so that the insurance is almost catastrophic, and that's a lot of people can afford now.
Yeah.
And what they're moving to.
Well, I don't know if you'll ever get into this, because you just get something that's all done and contracts are written, and you're going to be looking at just the technical part of the contract. But what about having medical care where it runs like automobile insurance? You can get automobile insurance from anyone who writes in the states, and you can get coverage for high risk patients. How does that work? How do you think that would work in the medical area?
Yeah, well, I think the market always works, and I think if allowed to, the market would work well. And I know there's been talk about letting even more insurers come into the state, and I know there's difficulties with that, but I think that's probably a better thing to do. And that competition in and of itself would drive down care, or drive down prices, and hopefully improve care, because insurer would have to offer a good quality product to you or your son at a decent price, and they know that in a big way if they have more competition to do it. So I think the market works for most things. I think it worked for medicine too. Unfortunately, the market's really being skewed quite a bit because government's so involved in it.
Yeah.
At the current rate, I'm half-time a government employee right now. So I'm well on my way to be a full-time government employee, even if I don't win the election. So that's just the way medicine's going.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. A lot of people laud Obamacare, but if you look at what's happening to the VA now,
right.
That's where that kind of care is going. You don't have to be an investigator, investigating the IRS or something to realize things have really gone askew in the VA. You could ask any third-year medical student, and they know that the lines are very long and always have been. And if you don't like, I know that I saw this bumper sticker the other day, if you don't like, how the DMV runs, don't let, the government get in your health care. And I fear that's where the trajectory we're heading now.
Well, I think the legislature really doesn't have that full understanding of how medicine works, or in fact, even how the Department of Motor Vehicles works, or the justice system.
I don't think anybody understands how the Department of Motor Vehicles works, but I do think, I'd hope I could bring some expertise to that and help. And certainly I see it from a physician side, and
but also from a businessman side.
Right. Yeah, I also pay insurance too.
Right. Yeah.
And I got to tell you, my premiums keep going up, but my pay doesn't go up. It's going down all the time. So,
it's a hectic. I don't know how we would get around that, but I think well, this is another opinion, a little bit of a side. I think we need a more of a business approach to our whole government. We've done a few things. In the 2010 legislature actually held the Justice Department up to a challenge that if they put in a phone system the way somebody like Visa has, or where they can handle lots of customers and centralize it, that they would be able to handle the caseloads of the different courts and everything much more effectively, and be able to solve problems much more effectively. Well, they held out, I forget how many millions of dollars, until they put in a test system. Test system worked so well that they just adopted it quickly. And within 2 years, they had completely changed their whole thing, and they saved, I don't know how many millions of dollars.
Well, and sure, who would you rather call, the DMV or Nordstrom's?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you want somebody with customer service and phone lines at work.
And that's what they have to have. They have to have somebody who's a little bit sensitive to their customers. They have to, that'll get into the contract somehow, maybe, huh?
I suppose so. It seems you never get sensitivity when you call the bureaucracy. Even I called I had a problem with the DA license number, and I had to call in, and I got somebody, and this is a government employee, and God bless them, I couldn't quite make them understand me because English was not their primary language. And I was thinking, maybe this isn't the right job for you. And then he transferred me to somebody else, and he didn't speak English that well either. So I was a little mystified at the choices people are making to put people in certain positions on the phone. But that's
true.
you know, the monolithic bureaucracy we deal with sometimes.
Well, they're so afraid of being sued by somebody nowadays that I imagine you have that problem too in your other part-time job.
Yeah, there's a bit of that in medicine, and yeah, that's one other thing with Obamacare. You know, as there are a few good things with Obamacare, but one of the very, very, very poor things was there's nothing. There's a whisper, a mention of tort reform.
Right.
And if to really do it right and do it properly, that has to be a huge inclusion. And you know, Obama came and spoke at the American Medical Association a few years ago, and I was in the audience, and he told us up front, you know, there's a pilot project for tort reform. Well, you can look at Texas or MICRA in California. That works. Tort reform works. You don't need a test project.
Yeah.
And really should be made a huge portion, and should be made a huge portion, because doctors every day practice so defensively. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to make sure that they don't get hunted down by attorneys.
Yeah, I know every year too there's some legislation trying to do a little bit here, but a little bit, you can't do a little bit. You got to really revamp the whole system.
When they passed MICRA in California, it took a yeoman's effort, but their rates are relatively low, same in Texas, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, huge,
You
like
think
an order
with
of
two
magnitude.
examples like that they might do something on a federal
It's
level.
proven that it exists. It's proven that it drops malpractice rates, which in turn drops. You know, it's like everything else. If you have a small business, you know, your Corona's Cleaners downtown or something, you have to pass on those costs to your customers, and medicine is no different. They have to do the same thing. And I know physicians that are paying, you know, high six figures in malpractice, and that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
That's quite a bit. I was surprised about it being that high, but the other thing is people have to realize too that any tax that comes out, the companies have to add that to their price of their product, whatever they turn out, and who gets it? The people who buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's a big circle, and you can't just tax to get the money to pay for something you think you need.
No, you can't. Yeah, you can't tax yourself into prosperity. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Well, hopefully we'll get a legislature that understands that up here.
I hope so. I think you're right. I think a business, a real business mentality is what we need. I liked. I've listened to Walt Havenstein speak several times lately, and I got to tell you, he's you know,
he's really got experience.
He's got some experience. I mean, the budget he handled was more than, you know, New Hampshire's
three times
New Hampshire's budget.
I heard him too.
And I tell you, I had dinner. It's funny. I had dinner with him the other night with he and his wife and I, and I really got to know him quite well. He was really a nice man. And I got to tell you, he was not the slow kid in class.
Yeah,
he's a one sharp guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's running, but even his opponent is a younger, but he has some experience too.
I met him the other day, and what a nice, articulate, and I have to say kid, I'm sorry, but he's a young man, and I got to hand it to him. I could never have done that at 32 years old, I think he is. I think
he had his 33rd birthday just recently.
Oh, did he? I tell you, he's a very impressive guy.
Well,
hat's
it'd
off
be
to
nice
him.
to have both of them in there in some
It would
form.
be. Yeah, well,
Well, maybe one will win.
isn't the way you select president? It was the person that got the second amount of votes was the vice president. So
Yeah.
maybe we could do something that way. Of course, he might want to be in the executive council then, so that wouldn't be good for me.
Well, they don't have a vice governor or anything because now that Maggie's in Turkey, we have this Senate president.
Right. Well, yeah, Morris is our governor right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a lot of damage now. No, Senator Morris is a great man, and I'm glad he's at the helm right now.
Yeah. Well, no, I think the Senate did a real good job last year. I think they held it straight. We got a good budget. We came in right on schedule as far as the money is concerned. So the only trouble is they spent more than the budget said.
It's always the problem. My dad always talks about. He doesn't want to vote for a tax increase because they never want to cut back. They always want to move forward and increase. They think legislators usually can't always find places to put the money you give them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, their salaries, in the most part, depend on how large a little domain they have, and so you have to know how the rules work, and you're going to find a way to enhance them to your benefit, I think. And some of the people up there, not everyone is altruistic as you like them to be. There are some very good workers I found up there, and you probably will find that if you get elected, that are very conscientious about the money they spend and the services they get.
The senators and reps I've met that are existing and running, by and large, I think are just fantastic people. I mean, just really good-hearted people with the best interest in mind. Obviously, they're not making a killing.
Yeah.
They're $100 a year, but I got to tell you, their hearts in the right place. I think all of them, and I admire them for it.
Well, I hope you are all ready to go out and wear out a few pairs of shoes walking around.
I am. I have been, and I'm gonna campaign hard and work hard to win.
Okay, good. And you have anything coming up, or that people should know about, that you're going to have a fundraiser or anything?
Well, I do have some fundraisers coming up, but probably later on. I will be at the Amherst Parade on the 4th of July, and the Merrimack Parade on the 4th of July also. Oh. And then the Hillsborough picnic after the Sunday the 5th after that.
Very good. And we'll have some of your information if people want to contact you to help you out in your campaign.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Please contact me.
And people will try to contact you. So very good, and we should get together maybe just before the primary and give
love
you
to.
one more shot at it. And since this is on YouTube also, you can pick it up and put it into anything you have on your website.
I will. Most people turn in to see you, but they might want to see me.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.